Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me to keep me company as usual. I'm going to introduce myself to you today. My name is Michelle Stern and I'm your host. Today I will be talking about the Integrity Commission's annual report. I'm going to be delving a little deeper into the report to look at the Integrity Commission's handling of the statutory declarations that they receive and the certification process, what the law says, and whether or not they are carrying out the law faithfully. And that basically is what we will look at today. It's a very long document, over 200 pages, so it won't be possible to go through all of it at one go. But this should be very interesting because this is the first line of defense, I suppose, in the matter of trying to stem corruption in our public sector. But before I begin, let me make my customary welcome to my subscribers and my regular viewers who are always here with me. Welcome, and thank you so much for keeping me company as always. You know, I do cherish your company always and your comments, and I want to thank you for sharing and giving my videos a thumbs up. You know, I appreciate that. As old-time people say, encouragement sweetens labor. Great. Now, to my viewers who are here with me for the first time, welcome. And don't be a stranger. Please subscribe and hit the notification button so you'll know whenever it is that I upload a video. Please also share the video with others so that we can get our message out, as well as leave your comments. I love to hear the comments. I read all of them, you know, believe it or not. I read all of them. And I will give you what you call it? I'll give you a love sign. Yes, I give you a like. If I like a comment. Some of them too controversial. I can't like them. But I'll always read your comments. So please leave your comment in the comment section. All right. So I do believe I welcome everyone. So let me get on with it now. I am going to begin by looking at what the law says. At section 42, subsection 1. In the left margin, you see it says examination of statutory declaration and publication of summary declaration in certain cases. I can tell you that the summary declarations that are published are that of the Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition. No other declaration is published by the Integrity Commission. It's not allowed. All the others have to be kept secret. So let us see now what it is the law says should be done with the statutory declarations when they are submitted to the Director of Information and Complaints, and his name is Mr. Craig Beresford. All right, let's see what the law says. The Director of Information and Complaints shall examine or cause to be examined every statutory declaration that is submitted. How many? Did it say one or half? Did it say that he should examine half of them? Or did he say they should examine 1% or 2%? No. The law is specific. Whenever the director receives statutory declarations, he is to examine every single one of them. Let me read it for you again so we don't forget. The Director of Information and Complaints shall examine or cause to be examined every statutory declaration that is submitted in order to ensure that it complies with the requirements of this act. So when the civil servant sends in the declaration, he's to examine it. That's what this is saying. In other words, it's just not enough to say you receive the statutory declaration. You have to ensure, Mr. Director, that it is accurate. And the only way you're going to know if what you received is accurate is if you check it. So this is why it is saying you must examine everyone. Okay. At subsection 2, it says, whereupon examination of a statutory declaration, the Director of Information and Complaints is of the opinion that further information is required in respect of the statutory declaration, he may, by notice in writing, so you have to put it in writing. You can't call him on the phone. He has to send the information in writing, requesting the declarant to submit such other information at such time as may be specified in the notice, and the declarant shall submit such information within the specified time. So, for example, he received a statutory declaration. Somebody says that they have money in the Bank of Nova Scotia, and when him checked, there is no bank statement or no letter from the bank confirming the balance that he says that he has in the account. He then needs to write to them to say that this information is missing and give them a date in order to procure the information. He might give them 3 weeks, he might give them a week, whatever it is. And then no, this is saying, according to the law, they have to submit the information within the time frame that he gave. Of course, you know, for some reason, they may not be able to get the information within the time frame. They must now contact and let them know that they're unable to get it and ask for an extension of time. That's how it works. It goes on to say, whereupon examination of a statutory declaration, the Director of Information and Complaints is satisfied that the statutory declaration has been duly completed, he shall so inform the Commission, and the Commission shall cause to be issued to the public official or parliamentarian, as the case may be, confirmation thereof in writing. B. Notwithstanding the provisions of Section 56, cause to be published a summary of the statutory declaration made by the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition in the Gazette in the form set out in Part B of the 3rd schedule. So what is this saying? This is saying basically that the Director of Information and Complaints is not doing an audit of the statutory declarations. He's examining the statutory declarations to ensure that the information is accurate. That's all he's doing. And that the supporting documents are also included. The bank statements, certificate of titles, and all these other stuff to back up whatever it is that they say. Audited reports from companies that they own as shareholders or their directors in, and so on. That's all he's doing. When he checks, so when they use the word examine, it means that he's checking the document. So when he checks and he finds that the documents are in order, that everything that is needed is there to back up whatever it is that the public official is saying, or the parliamentarian, that they have as assets, that is their income, that is their liabilities in any currency, whether Jamaican and other currencies. According to the law, the next step for the director, once he's satisfied that everything is in order and everything is filled out and complete, he is now then to send that information to the commissioners. The commissioners will then send to the parliamentarian or the public official in writing to say that we have examined your statutory declaration and it is in order. We will see what then happens after that. When it comes to the Leader of the Opposition and the Prime Minister, once the director sends to the commissioners to say that everything is in order, They then will cause the statutory declaration to be published in the Gazette. So this now is a process for when the statutory declaration is in order and complete. What happens now if it is not complete? Subsection 4 says, where the Director of Information and Complaints is of the opinion that an investigation in relation to a statutory declaration is necessary for the purposes of this Act, he shall refer the matter to the Commission for further and necessary action. So he's not just going to send it directly to the Director of Investigation. He's supposed to alert the commissioners that, look here, something not right with this one here, and I think we need to do some more investigation into this one. Once the commissioners receive the recommendation, they will now take it further. So as a reminder, let us recall what it says as 42.1. It says that the Director of Information and Complaints shall examine or cause to be examined every statutory declaration that is submitted to him. All right, every one he's supposed to examine. And the reason is the law says he is to examine them in order to ensure that what he is receiving complies with the requirements of the Act. Now we're going to check now the annual report to see how Mr. Beresford fared. Mr. Beresford, remember, is the Director of Information and Complaints. Let's see how he fared and to what extent he was able to follow what the law requires or not. So now we're going directly to the 2023-2024 annual report of the Integrity Commission, and we're looking at statutory declarations, particularly those that have been examined. So this section is telling you the total number of statutory declarations over the period, well, I said five-year period, but it appeared to be 6 to me, from 2019 to 2024. And from various segments of the public sector, you have the parliament. You have the parliamentarians. The categories are the parliamentarians, councillors, senior public officials, and other public officials. And they are saying here that the number of statutory declarations received, the total number is 165,492 in that period, which gives an average of around 33,098 per year, using their 5-year figure, right? We're just going to use the 5-year. So that's what they have on average. Now, if you look into the left side where it says, you see those little boxes with the blue writing or the blue background, it says statutory declarations examined 1,268, and that is as at March 31, 2024. So they are talking about April 1, 2023 to March 31, 2024, that period. And they are saying that they examined 1,268 statutory declarations. Of that number, they certified 988. 7 public officials were referred for investigations, and 693 examinations were work in progress, meaning that they're working on them now. Now, we are particularly interested in the parliamentarians, but we look at the others as well. So they are saying that from 2018 to 2019 until now, 2023 to 2024, they're saying that the parliamentarians submitted 549 in total, right? 549 statutory declarations were received by the Integrity Commission from parliamentarians. Of that amount, 374 were examined. You heard that? 374 were examined. That represents 68% of them. Of the 374 that were examined, only 231 was certified. And that now is 62% of those examined was certified. And 13 parliamentarians were referred to the Director of Investigations for them to conduct investigations into what, if I recall, 6 of them were for illicit enrichment and 7 for making false statements on their declarations. Now, of the 374 that were examined, that 13 represents 1.4%. So 1.4% of the declaration that were examined, they found occasion to refer 13 of our parliamentarians to the Director of Investigations. Now, when you look at the councillors submitted 1,149 declarations in that same period. Only 72 of that amount was examined, which represents 6% of what was submitted. Then now, of that amount, 45 of them were certified, which is 63% of the 72 that were examined. And they referred 3 councillors to the Director of Investigation to be investigated, and that's a 4%. Right? That's a rate of 4% of the 72 that was examined. When it comes now to the senior public officers, they submitted 1,050 declarations. 109 were examined. 109 of the 1,050 were examined, representing 10%. Of that 10%, 79 was certified. That's 72% of the 109 were certified. And 8 of those public officers were referred to the Director of Investigation to look into them. I don't know what that is about. They never said, they're not specifying whether it's for illicit enrichment or anything. They're just giving it a raw figure now. Now, for the other public officers, 162,744 statutory declarations were received by the Integrity Commission. And of that amount, only 1,769 were examined. That is 1% of what they received were examined. Of the 1,769, 1,426, representing 81%, were certified. And 35 of them were referred to the Director of Investigation for them to carry out investigation into those statutory declarations. And that's 1.9% of what was examined. Now, you will recall that the law says that the Director of Information and Complaints must examine every single statutory declaration that he received. But it is obvious that he has not, in any category, done any such thing. Taking a look now at the explanation that they give as to why so few statutory declarations were examined, let's see what their explanations are. They say here, the process for the examination of statutory declarations is time-consuming. I want you to remember that, because we're going back to the Act to read what the Act says that he's supposed to be doing. He says that the process is time-consuming, highly intensive, and analytical. Analytical, I agree with. And yes, intensive to some extent. But the time-consuming part of it, we're going to check what the law says he should be doing compared to what it is that he appears to be doing. All right? He goes on to say the process includes a review of statutory declarations submitted by the declarant. So that's the first thing. And the request for information to complete the examination. An iterative process. Iterative means it involves a lot of computation. You have to do a lot of calculations, like what I was doing in order to bring you this report, at least my analysis of the report. They go on to say the iterative process can sometimes take several months. You hear that? This is one, he's talking about one declaration, and it can take several months to complete it. Since in most instances the information required emanates from institutions over which the declarant has no control. Further, the Commission remains considerate of the exigencies which may be experienced by public officials that at times occasion several requests for extension. So when they can't get the information that the Commission asks for, they have to be asking for further extensions to give them more time. The process also includes other actions, such as a request for information by the Integrity Commission from multiple third-party entities, both local and overseas, to enable independent verification of relevant information. So what they're saying is that we do our research as well. They tell us something, and what we do, we go double check to see if it's true. Upon receipt of the requisite information from declarants and third-party entities, as well as the conclusion of other actions, a rigorous analysis is conducted, and then a recommendation is made to the commissioners for certification or investigation. Let us now go back to what the law says that he should be doing, because what he's describing here sounds to me like he's doing audits. It sounds to me that he's doing audits. They submit the declaration and he's going through the various itemized section, verifying the information that's been given to him by going to the institutions to ask them to, as an independent verification of what is written there. All right? That is what he's doing. And this process takes months, especially when they are asking the declarants to provide them with further information, and they have to go get it from an institution, right? Further information than what they submitted. Let's look at what the law says that he should be doing and see if this is what the law has described. Looking again at section 42, this time around we are going to jump to subsection 3, where the Director of Information and Complaints is given specific instructions as to what he is to do. It says, where upon examination of a statutory declaration, so at the statutory declaration, all right, the Director of Information and Complaints is satisfied that the statutory declaration has been duly completed. He shall so inform the Commission, and the Commission send to the person and tell them, say, everything cool, man, everything good, we'll certify you, everything is in order. Now, the operative words here is that he's satisfied that the statutory declaration has been duly completed. Let me give you an example of what that means. So you're applying for your passport at the passport office, and you write up the form. Now you know what is needed. They tell you if you're renewing, for argument's sake, you must fill out certain sections. Then you must supply them with X amount of photographs, passport size photographs, and at the back of it, a JP must sign it, right? Then now it also says that you must fill out a declaration, you must sign it, and I believe a JP must certify it. I think it's the same JP must certify it. Now, you yourself, the first thing you're going to do before you leave your house and head for passport office or wherever it is you're going to do it, is you're going to check. You're going to examine what you have on that paper to see if it is accurate. So you're going to look, make sure you fill out everything. Yes, you're married. Yes, your name spelled right, everything. That is what you do. You're checking. When you find yourself at that passport office now, you get up. I don't think from 2017 you get my remember about the process work, but I'm trying to remember. Those of you who have had it recently, you remember. You're going and you go somewhere and they check to make sure that everything is in order. They go through it just as you did. Make sure the spelling is right. Make sure every area you should fill out is right, and that you sign it and a JP sign it. And then when you do, then take your money and then tell you come back at X amount of time and you will get your passport. You see, if that examiner miss something, then when call you and tell you, so you can't get the passport unless you come in and put in whatever information. My impression of what this is saying here, that the Director of Information and Complaints is satisfied that the statutory declaration has been duly completed, is exactly what happens when you go to the passport office. They check to make sure that what you're handing in to them is completed. But what I just described for you, that Mr. Beresford was describing in trying to explain to us why it is that so few declarations have been signed off on, is that he's actually doing an audit. He thinks that when they say here examine, it's an audit. I wonder if he's an accountant. He might be an accountant, you know. Now, I know that Mark Golding may not be the brightest spark. He may not be the brightest spark, but not even he's as dumb as that. When they were putting this act together, they would have known there would be 30,000 persons who would have been required to submit statutory declarations annually. They would have known that. And they would have known that it is impossible to audit those, 30,000 per year without having a hell of a big staff to do it. And where is government to get money from to pay all these people to conduct an audit? It's a whole heap of accountants that, right? Now, if that is the case, then clearly all they want to do is to ensure, listen to what I think is going on here. They want the people to submit their declaration. They want you to put in what it is that you earn, your assets, your liabilities, and so on. And they want to talk about the gifts and so on. When you make sure that you have all the supporting documents, that is going to go into a file. Now, it is not the declaration itself which is going to provide the Integrity Commission with the information about whether or not they are involved in illicit enrichment. It is not the declaration. And it is not the declaration itself that is going to provide information that they have submitted false information on their declarations. No. You know where that information comes from? When people call in to tell them, I know the man have a property over yonder, but I don't know if he declare it. Did he declare it? I know you can't tell me, but I'm just giving you this information. And then what they then do with the information is go back to the file, pluck it out, look and see. Them only need 1 year. Look and see. 1 year, depending on when the person said that they had the property. And then they look and see, okay, I don't see him declare this property. That is if they got the full information. Like if it's a land, they will get the volume and folio, and the title was sent to them so that they can see who owns the property and from when the person owns the property. Then they just go and look for the statutory declaration for the years after to see if it was declared. They don't see it declared. Bam. They go and do some investigation. I would imagine that when they gather the information that they need, they then call the declarant and say to them, look, we have discovered that you own a property in such and such a place. And, or maybe they will just ask, do you own a property in such and such a place? And see what they do, right? Whether they're going to deny it. And then they will show them the title and say, but here's the title. What is this about? Make him give an explanation. Then they would ask them questions and determine whether or not it was a genuine mistake or not. And what answers are given to the questions that they ask is what they will determine whether or not to charge. I am almost sure that Marissa Dalrymple Filbert did not get that information unless, the only way they could have gotten it from her is unless she may have been in a quandary as to whether or not this vehicle really belongs to her since it's in her name, although she bought it under the government facility for her brother-in-law, I believe, is what she said. Then she would have gone and said, maybe I should be declaring it. So she go and finally declare it, and they realize now that it is from how many years she did not declare. I don't think that is what happened. Somebody reported it to them, right? And they investigated and found it to be so. So it seems to me that the intent of the law is that the Director of Information and Complaints is supposed to receive these statutory declarations, check them against the supporting documents to make sure the thing match up, and then file them away. They are supposed to, once everything is in order and they have all the information, then send to the commissioners that everything is in order with this declaration. And they sign off on it and certify. In other words, had they been doing that, they would have gone through thousands. Because remember, they're receiving these declarations on the 31st of March. So it's all of them coming in. All of this 30,000 coming in on the same day. But they have between the 1st of April until the 31st of March of the next year in order to go through all of these 30,000 declarations. So I decided to do a little calculation of my own. Now, remember, there are 165,000 over the 6-year period. It's actually 6 years. 33,098 average per annum. Now, the working days for a 365-day year is 251. When you take out the weekends and the public holidays, you have 251 days you work for the year. If you divide that 251 by 33,000, you will get that they would need to process 142 of these statutory declarations per day in order to complete the batch that they have now by the time the next batch is going to roll in, right? If they have 6 persons going through these examinations, these 142 statutory declarations, they would have about 24 of them per person. So with 6 staff persons, they would be processing, each one of them would be processing 24 statutory declarations per day. If they increase that amount to 8 staffers, then it would be 17 statutory declarations per day. And if they have 10 people just there to work on these verification, they would now have 14 statutory declarations per day per person. So it is accomplished. It can be accomplished. It can be accomplished. And then now they will be able to satisfy the requirements of the law. Everybody will have their certification at least by the end of the year. Right? That must be what the law is contemplating. Because how could the law expect him and his staff to be able to examine every single statutory declaration? 33,000 statutory declaration in the way in which he's doing it, which he's conducting an audit. All he's supposed to do is to make sure that the documents are before him and all the areas are filled out and the supporting documents and the figures on them match what is on the statutory declaration. Once he has everything, he's supposed to send it to the commissioners for them to sign off on it and call the people, tell them, say, your thing certified. That's it. He's not supposed to be calling an institution and ask them nothing unless it was a complaint that came in that the person has a property here or there, or the person has money stashed away here or there, or the person has money. That is the only time now, in my opinion, right, that he should be going to the institution now to get the information, right? Does such and such a person have an account with you? Of course, you need a consent form to be able to get them to answer. And I suggested that they get an open consent form, one that says, to whom it may concern, I, such and such a person, hereby authorize the Integrity Commission to make such inquiries as necessary under such and such a law, under the Act, and I give my consent for you to cooperate with them in any which way they can. Something to that effect, them sign it, and the JP sign it, and you use that Integrity Commission to get your information out of these institutions when you get complaints from people. So I'm going to suggest to you, Justice Panton, that in order to verify whether I am saying, this is just a suggestion, might be based upon what I read the law and the common sense of it all, that this is how it must be. I would suggest that instead of calling the Solicitor General to ask him what his opinion is of the law, because that is not going to be very helpful, right? I would suggest that you go to Hansard and look up the debate that was taking place in the Parliament about the Integrity Commission and this section, and hear what it was that the Parliament, at least the Parliament, yes, said that this section means and what it is supposed to do, and you will have your answer. So you need to go to Hansard to see what it is that the parliamentarians intended to happen with the declarations that are coming in between the time when they come in and they are certified by you. That is my suggestion, and then that should solve it. But in any event, he cannot continue to be doing audits as he's doing now, because he'll never be able to certify not even 10,000, because as you can see from your own annual report, looking at it from a year-on-year basis of how many statutory declarations you are able to examine. In 2018, in all of 2018, you were only able to examine 17 statutory declarations for parliamentarians and certify 7. Don't know who those lucky parliamentarians are, but the rest of them had no examination, no certification, and they must be fretting. Then now you have 2019, only 22 was examined. Remember, there are 84 parliamentarians, and assuming that all of them sent in the declarations, you were only able to examine 22 because you were doing an audit. Then in 2020, 40, 2021, 46, 2022, 51. It says 2 here for 2023. I guess the balance of them would be in 2024, which is not listed here. So up to 2023, you were only able to examine 178 of the 400 and odd that you received. This ought to have been a sign to you that something isn't right. And I'm suggesting to you what it is that it isn't right. Is that you're producing audits And that is not what the legislation says. The legislation says you must just examine something and pass it on to be certified. So all of those persons were entitled all these years to have their declarations examined, certified, so that they can feel comfortable that they have satisfied the requirements of the Act. So looking at examination and certification of statutory declarations, let me read it very quickly. During the reporting period, the Commission examined 563 statutory declarations using a risk-based approach and stratified random sampling, and certified 439 of those statutory declarations as highlighted in the table below. So what are they saying? When you add the parliamentarian certified from 2018 until 2022, it's 24 of them out of the 84 now. Then you take the public officials, which is 30,000 of them, actually 140,000 of them, and only 415 were certified, in order to try and see if they can find a mechanism to be able to certify more and examine more, hoping to satisfy the requirements of the law. They came up with this sampling. It's sampling, and the accountants use a type of sampling like this, but they have their own methods, right? Where they say this is a risk-based approach. I'm going to look it up and tell you what that means. So they were able, according to them, to certify 439 declarations in the period, right? Now the reporting period would be, I believe they're talking about 2022, 2023, it says here. So that's the accounting period. They were able to certify that amount. Let's look now what they're talking about risk-based very quickly and stratified random sampling. Risk-based approach is about understanding the risks your organization faces and creating controls for these risks based on prioritizing the damage they can do. So what it is that they are probably doing at the Integrity Commission. It says here, what are the 3 steps for risks-based approach? An effective risk-based approach involves 3 key steps: identify and assess risk factors, mitigate these risk factors by applying relevant management controls, monitor and review changes to the residual risk profile. What does that mean? I don't know, but let me see if I can figure it out. I would hazard a guess that what they're talking about here in terms of the Integrity Commission is that they would look at the various positions that the declarants occupy to determine the risk factor in terms of corruption. So, for example, you look at the parliamentarians and you would divide them. I imagine you would divide them into 2 groups. You will have those that are ministers and those who are backbenchers. And they all control money at the constituency level. But if you have a problem with time constraint and you're not able to certify everybody or check their, do their examination, then you may decide that what you're going to do is to only certify the ministers, the prime minister, and the leader of the opposition. You have to do that. And the ministers of government, right? That is what you would now do, because they control a whole heap of monies, and therefore the risk of corruption is greater there. I think this is what this means. So what it is that it means now, this business of stratified random sampling, which is what the Integrity Commission say that they are using. It says here, stratified random sampling is a method of sampling that involves the division of a population into smaller subgroups known as strata. It stratified in stratified random sampling or stratification, the strata are formed based on members' shared attributes or characteristics, such as income or educational attainment. Stratified random sampling has numerous applications and benefits, such as studying, and we won't go any further. So what is this? You see that division that they made of all of the government people and parliamentarians who are required to submit declarations, statutory declarations. You notice that they divide them into specific groups. You have the parliamentarians, you have the councillors, you have the senior public servants or public officials, and then you have the rest. That is what is referred to as stratifying random sampling. When I told you earlier that they clearly were doing auditing and not just simply examining, right? That they were doing auditing. Here is the evidence. I won't get into what auditing is. You guys can always check it out. Go online and Google it. But the auditors, they use samples. They couldn't check all them many thousands and thousands of transactions. So they use sampling size and, I won't get into it. Now, here is what they say though, just briefly, that the audit sampling overview, purpose, importance, and type. I just read this little section. Statistical audit sampling involves a sampling approach where the auditor utilizes statistical methods such as random sampling to select items to be verified. So that is a similar approach that the Integrity Commission is utilizing. Now here's a big question. Who authorizes them to do that? Did they go to the Parliament and ask Parliament, tell them what the problems they're facing are, and ask the Parliament to approve them utilizing this approach? Because it's certainly not in the Act. The Act clearly states at section 42(1) that the Director of Information and Complaints is supposed to examine all of the statutory declarations received. That's what it says. So for them to be using a sampling mechanism in order to determine which statutory declaration to examine and which not to examine, that is not legal. They believe that they are supposed to be auditing these accounts when the law clearly says that what you must do is check them, make sure all is well, and then pass them on to the commission, let the commission certify them. All of those public servants, if they were doing what they were supposed to do according to the Act, they would have had their certification. So the heavy backlog that they're having right now, it's all caused by them. It's an internal problem that they created by taking on duties and responsibilities that is not sanctioned or given to them by the Act. Again, yesterday, what we found out in my previous video is that they were exercising discretionary powers that the Act did not give them, giving blight to certain people when they should be seeking to have them prosecuted, as the Act say they should. So what we have discovered so far is that a lot of the problems that they are having, especially with the statutory declarations, are problems of their own makings. In terms of the institutions not cooperating with them, it is also a problem of their own making, because it seems to me that they are not utilizing the full force of the tools of the law that they seem to think they have, and they're not using it in order to force these institutions to cooperate with them and provide them with the information that they requested so that their investigations can be completed in a timely fashion. Okay, so let me end it here for today. It has been a long vigil. Thank you so much for keeping me company as usual. And if you're here, it meant that you listened all the way through. and I do appreciate it very much. Also, please share the video at least to one person that you know. If you can share to 5 or 10, that's beautiful. But if you only know one, please share it to them so that they can be informed as well. Leave your comments in the comment section, as well as give the video a thumbs up if you like it or enjoy the information that I've provided you. And please, if you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's below the video to the right, you see subscribe. So, until next time, walk good.